So again, my name is Racine Basant, and I will be presenting on the petrophysical characterization of deep cores for developing geothermal energy in Montserrat, West Indies. So my research is focused on contributing towards developing geothermal energy on the small island developing state of Montserrat. Montserrat is located in the northern section of the Lesser Antilles Arc of the Eastern Caribbean. And the island is the host of 4 volcanic bodies: Silver Hills, Center Hills, Super Hills, and South Super Hills. And in 1995, began a series of volcanic eruptions from the South Super Hills, which destroyed destroyed the island's capital, Plymouth, that was located in the southern part of the island. So while the long-term effects of this eruption has severely impacted the economy, economic growth is also hindered by the island's heavy reliance on costly fossil fuels. Now, despite the destructive nature of volcanoes, this high thermal energy can be effectively harnessed, and the use of this energy will promote economic growth, reduce greenhouse gases, and lessen the reliance on fossil fuels. So geothermal exploration helped to map and understand more about Montserrat's geothermal system. So Young et al. Proposed the first conceptual model of the high temperature geothermal system. And you can see here to your left on figure 8, the magmatic body heats up groundwater that percolates into the system via rainfall or seawater incursions. And then Ryan et al. Further developed this model, as seen in figure B, by incorporating 3 geophysical datasets. And using the datasets, the authors were able to map high temperature and high permeability regions that were favorable for drilling wells on the island. So the first 2 wells were drilled in the St. George's Field regions that's located in the southern part of Montserrat in 2014. And these wells were very successful, and they intersected, they had an estimated geothermal power potential of 2.4 megawatts, which surpasses the peak energy baseload of the island. And then in 2016, a 3rd well was drilled. However, the well collapsed. This variable outcome stresses the importance for continuous modeling of the Montserrat geothermal system and a better understanding of the petrophysical properties. So prior to the collapse of the well, 3 subsurface cores were obtained from the Monterey well, the 3rd well that was drilled. And these rocks provide realistic measurements of petrophysical properties such as porosity and permeability. Porosity influences the storage capacity and amount of reserves in the reservoir, while permeability influences the efficient recovery rates of the geothermal fluid. So I was able to prepare core samples and measure porosity and permeability on these rocks using a high precision triaxial apparatus at the geomechanics lab at the University of the West Indies. And just to share a few of my findings, so some of the main findings that I found was that the relatively highest permeabilities highlight the importance of low porosity microfractures and suggest that these features are very important for developing fluid flow in the Montserrat geothermal system. Additionally, we were able to understand more about the permeability and isotropy in the reservoir, and we generally highlighted that permeabilities were higher in the horizontal directions. And by measuring permeability at increasing pressure, we were able to determine stress sensitivity parameters for modeling permeability. So overall, this research has resulted in model parameters that can help develop reservoir optimization plans. The parameters can also be used in volcano modeling studies. For example, the permeability has been known to influence the type of volcanic eruptions. Moreover, many islands in the Eastern Caribbean are aiming to develop renewable energy. And we hope that the results of this study can be extended to these islands. Future plans include further geophysical laboratory work. And as far as challenges, there's always continuous need to improve on conceptual models, especially within the geothermal systems. And this, of course, requires resources and funding. So thank you for listening to my brief talk, and thank you for the opportunity to present my research very briefly. If you have any questions about my research, I'm happy to share more details. And lastly, I'd like to thank my supervisors. So again, thanks.
So much for introducing me. So I'm Heng from Texas A&M University. So I want to take this 5 minutes to give you a brief overview of my research direction and also showcase some of my case studies. So this is an overview of my entire research. So mainly I'm using geospatial information science. When I say geoinformation science, it includes utilizing different multiple sources of geospatial data and also the spatial modeling. And also I borrow some methods from statistics and machine learning methods. So right now, my research focuses on using GIS to address the disaster resilience issue and also modeling the human environmental interactions. So through my research, my ultimate goal is to provide, other than solving the research question, we also develop new data, new tool, and also share this data and tool with the broader community to enable others' research. So in the future, I'm trying to push my research boundary and try to apply geospatial data modeling into other fields, such as recently, I'm also doing research on COVID-19, and also I'm working with researchers from urban planning to solve some planning issue. So I want to first talk about, my first part of research is to map the disaster resilience. So I synthesize different types of, empirical data to develop a resilience resilience assessment model. Is called resilience inference measurement model. So in this framework, we use geospatial data to describe 3 dimensions: threats, damage, and recovery. And now we are applying these methods to the entire United States at county level. So by integrating the 3 dimensions, we can come up with this resilience index, which is empirically based and also validated. As you can see here, this is a bivariate map. Visualizing 2 dimensions. One is vulnerability, the other one is adaptability. Using this map, we can, depending on which county you are living, you can try to visualize, the 3 dimensions of your particular county. So this is the first case study I have done. So for mapping disaster resilience, in 2021, Texas experienced a very severe winter storm, Uri. So in that winter storm, temperature in Texas was even colder than in Alaska. So it caused tremendous road damage and also power outage, and also put a lot of pressure on people's mental health. So in order to I think as a geographer specialized in GIS science, so I want to use the power of GIS, machine learning, and also NLP to overcome this resilience issue. So we use different types of data to it describes 3 dimensions of resilience, about road system, power system, and also mental health. So by utilizing mobility data, social media data, and also the winter storm related data like power outage and also snow depths, this kind of data. So we conducted a resilience assessment study for all the counties in Texas during winter storm Uri, and we also conducted a statistical analysis to see the relationship between the resilience and its underlying socioeconomic variables. So the second part of my research focusing on monitoring human-environment interactions. So this is a framework about how we normally do human-environmental interaction modeling and simulation. So first step is about observation. So we use data to describe human dynamics, built environment, socio-economic conditions, and by using different types of modeling approaches, including from regression analysis to agent-based modeling and also Bayesian belief network and many others approaches, we can derive models. And with this model, we can simulate future patterns on different scenarios, which enable new tools, new application, so that we can the research findings can help stakeholders, or citizens, practitioners, emergency managers to make informed and smart decisions. So this is one case study I want to share with you. As you can see from the image here, this is the first American climate refuge. It's an island in coastal Louisiana. The island is called Ile de Jean-Charles. So this island, and because of sea level rise and also land subsidence, this area lost 80% of its land area, and people are forced to relocate to inland area. So I want to model two things. One is about the coastal land loss, and the other thing is about coastal migration, induced by coastal flooding and sea level rise. So modeling coastal land loss, we need to consider factors, from both the environmental component and also human activities. And in spatial modeling, for modeling land cover, land change, we also need to consider the neighborhood conditions. So as you can see from here, this is all the variables I use into the modeling. And here is the workflow for the modeling process. So through this modeling framework, we can integrate different types of data sources from different formats and from different geographical scales. We can derive multiple models and to choose which model works the best. And then we can do simulation to simulate what the future coastal land loss pattern will be. So another thing we have modeled is about coastal migration, which is, the people, they are forced to relocate. But modeling coastal migration is complex because, how people, people's perception of risk and also whether people has the ability, the capacity to relocate is complex. And also these interactions between all the factors are nonlinear and uncertain. So we need to derive a model that can capture the complex systems and also enable the simulation for us to make a decision. So during this research, we also use this framework for spatial modeling of human environment interactions to derive new models. The model can incorporate both the local knowledge from the residents and also the to be optimized by machine learning methods. And then by this model, we can derive different types of scenarios. So we have already tested 5 different types of scenarios, and by each scenario, we can also derive new maps to show the patterns. So this is all of my introduction today. So I have more to show. So if you are interested, welcome to join the breakout room later on. And thank you so much.
So much for the introduction, and I'm sorry it's a little bit long. And if I knew you are going to introduce all the details, I would write it a little bit shorter. So again, thank you so much for the NAAHDRI for offering the chance for us to communicate and talk about our research. And today I want to share how I use big geospatial data and the GeoAI technologies to enable the build of smart disaster resilience. So I believe everyone is very familiar with the concept of disaster resilience. So when you encounter disaster events, every community will experience the 4 phases of the emergency management, from the preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. And during disasters, especially in the response phase, most communities will experience something called the function loss. The function could be the road system function, could be the mental health or the social connections with their friends and the social other family members. And the goal for building disaster resilience is first to reduce the function loss in the response period, and secondly, to accelerate the recovery so that the community's function can reach the new equilibrium, even maybe a higher level compared to the pre-disaster phase. So that is a goal, but it is very difficult to achieve in traditional ways. And that's the reason we realize we need to introduce the use of multiple types of geospatial big data to better monitor the change of the community function through disasters and inform decision makers to reduce the function loss and accelerate the function recovery. So that's the reason we introduced the concept and use of geospatial data science in here. So I've been collaborating with the previous speaker, Dr. Kai, for a long time. So you can see we have some overlaps in here, but I will definitely introduce our research from a different perspective. So in general, we'll try to leverage different types of geospatial big data, including data from the internet, the social media, or cell phone sensors, as well as from the satellite images. And using the GI science advances, for example, data science technologies, artificial intelligence models, as well as the digital twin for modeling and simulation, we're able to better observe the human behaviors, the urban development, as well as the environmental changes. And based on the information, we can measure and improve the community resilience in a smart and equal way, so everyone will be considered in the model. And the resilience in here, we are targeting on different types of disasters, not only including the natural hazards like hurricanes, floods, or drought, but also the public health crisis like the COVID-19 and the air pollution, as well as the water insecurity. And based on the modeling results, we will try to develop tools and inform policy interventions that can help us to enable a long-term human natural sustainability. And today I will only introduce one part of the research due to the time limit, which is about the use of social media and GeoAI in the disaster response and the resilience improvement. So I'm not sure if you're using one of the social media platform, especially recently as Elon Musk purchased Twitter, the way people and the platform people use on social media has changed dramatically. But during the previous disasters, people have intensively used social media for multiple purposes, including requesting rescue or searching people needing rescue, or also reporting the lost animals, reporting or complaining about local infrastructure malfunctions, as well as offering the help or shelter information on social media to help people who did not receive the help from first responders in a timely manner. So based on the use of social media, we realize that there is abundance of real-time and valuable information on social media. But the challenge is how to mine, extract the information, especially those relevant to disaster response actions from the noisy and biased social media to enable the equal and smart disaster response. So we started by developing different algorithms, and today I will just showcase a few of the applications relevant to the use of social media for disaster response. So the first one is about disaster awareness monitoring. So we try to develop normalize the indexes that can remove the biases in terms of social media preferences and the usages in different locations to generate more knowledge about why and where are people using social media more intensively for different purposes. So these are two maps generated during Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Harvey, showing where are the people having much higher disaster awareness compared to the national average. And secondly, we try to develop different models to first identify the victims on social media who request rescue. Secondly, using the latest natural language processing model to identify the location information from those messages. And finally, using a geocoding process to convert the textual addresses into coordinates that can be used by first responders. So this is a demonstration we created by extracting the rescue request during Hurricane Harvey, and then those people can be shared with the volunteer organizations to send the volunteers to help them. The third one is about damage estimation. And in this case study, we try to incorporate the consideration of the bias on social media, because not everyone is using social media, and not everyone who uses social media will report the local damage or request help on social media during disasters. So let's say, suppose there's one people request rescue in the building circled by the white circle in here. Then we can use the elevation and precipitation data to predict the surrounding buildings where there might be people needing help, or the buildings that has a high chance of being damaged during hurricane events. So based on this model, we are able to estimate the number of affected households. And this is also a case study during the Hurricane Harvey on the right side of the slide. And lastly, I want to introduce a different type of disaster, which is a COVID-19. And we want to concern the public health, especially the mental health relevant to COVID-19. But on the other hand, we also need to acknowledge that not everyone is on social media, so we need to consider the demographical bias on social media. But fortunately, with the deep learning, we're able to identify the demographic information of different users. So as you can see in here, we're able to map the public sentiment, especially percent of negative emotions toward COVID-19 by different demographics. And in general, the younger generation, especially younger female, shows more negative emotions toward COVID-19. And this conclusion has been confirmed by the psychological studies as well. So that's in general everything I want to share with you today. And I believe if we can keep the responsibility when we design research questions and conduct studies, and also always consider spatial thinking, we're definitely able to build a more resilient future. Thank you so much.